I have to say, I feel like a rock star. This is amazing.
Wow, so many wonderful humans out there.
Not so skeptical now, are we, about psychology?
Love life and enjoy every moment.
Good afternoon, Your Holiness. Thank you so much for joining us from Dharamsala. My name is Natasha. It's been a few years since we met. We have a wonderful audience here in Sydney at the Happiness and its Causes conference, and I'd like them to make their presence felt and heard.
Right. Oh,
Our plan
thank you.
Our plan for this session is to have a short conversation together, you and I, and then our audience are submitting questions via their mobile phones, which I will see here on this screen. And there is a democracy at work. They are voting on the questions. And so I will ask some of the questions that our audience have for you today. And our theme is how to lead a happy and meaningful life, which is an enormous theme. And I wanted to start by asking you about the way in which society and social forces shape how we feel as individuals. And my question is, what role does our happiness play? How does our own happiness, what does our own happiness have to do with the happiness, or what does our own happiness have to do with the suffering of those far away from us in the world?
Right. Now firstly, I want to apologize. Now, because of my age, long flight from India to Australia, difficult. So now, more or less, I decided not go to your beautiful area. But in modern time, you see, with the help of modern technology, you see, we can, because of discussing, you see, we very close each other. It's a few times I also, you see, telecast or this kind of sort of meeting, some other country. So now, your question, that's very important. I believe the very purpose of our life is happiness. Reason, the future, still mysterious things, no guarantee. But we live on the basis of hope. Once you see people, individual, completely lost hope, then that very thinking shorten our life. And then worst thing, too much drug and alcohol, then worst case may take suicide. So therefore, I believe the very purpose of our life is joyful human life.
And you
Then
do it well.
Every 7 billion human being have every right to be happy human being. Now here, the important is the existing our modern education, very much oriented about material value. So generation come from that kind of education. Eventually, you see, create materialistic life, materialistic culture. So people who always pay attention for material value, then such person, when come across some mental level problem, then they really become helpless. So now we should pay more attention, the equal attention for material value as well as our inner value. The happiness is part of our inner experience. So this, you see, must develop within our own mind. Now see here, the materialistic life, seeing something nice, hearing like music, some nice, and taste, and good smell, touch, including sex. These are entirely depend on material, external thing. So these cannot eliminate our mental level suffering. So, for example, no matter how sort of all these facility, good facility there, too much anger here, too much sort of anxiety here cannot remove. So now time come, we should pay more attention about our inner value. And in order to know that, I usually call the map of emotion, knowing this whole sort of system of our inner experiences. With fuller knowledge, then pay more attention the cause which develop anxiety and anger, jealousy. Now these, then once we notice these things or realize these things, then we can pay more attention about the causes of these destructive emotion. Through that way, our emotion, destructive emotion, can weaken. And then positive emotions such as compassion, and with more compassion there, then the forgiveness, tolerance automatically come, because the compassionate mind, say, reduce self-centered attitude. Too much self-centered attitude, then fear, distrust, these things come.
Can I
Anxiety come. Anxiety is the immediate cause of anger. So therefore, now compassion brings us inner strength, self-confidence. I think, including myself, and you also, you say, have, I think, same experience. When we say something nice, but motivation not very sincere, then self-confidence is less. Motivation is very sincere, then you develop self-confidence very strongly. With that, you can carry your life transparent, and willpower come, and distrust, fear reduce. So therefore, sense of concern of well-being of other is the key factor for individuals' peace of mind. Okay, irrespective whether believer or non-believer, these is just simply our day-to-day life more happier.
It's a powerful.
I think problem is concerned.
It's a very powerful secular message that you have. We as individuals are shaped by forces bigger than us. So in the world at the moment, there is a lot of conflict. There is a lot of anger. There is, people are pushing refugees away. They are shutting down their borders. There is a rise in nationalism. And I wonder what state of mind you think all that reflects at the moment. And
yes. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I think our education system, I think something lacking about our inner value. Now basically, now some scientists, they say basic human nature is more compassionate. It is quite obvious. See, all 7 billion human beings come from their mother, and all 7 billion human beings, when they are young, up to, I think, 4, 5 years old, mothers are the affectionate sort of care, compassionate sort of attitude. Without that, we can't survive. So therefore, we all come from, or we all have that kind of experience. Then, more important, now scientists, medical scientists say the constant anger, fear is actually eating our immune system. Whereas more compassionate minds there, then these immune system sustain more effectively. So there, and then I think we all now experience the day, in the morning, you develop some strong anger. That very day, you see, although the so obvious anger no longer there, but some kind of impact in our mind, whole days and even days, weeks may remain. So therefore, now we must pay attention how to develop our inner value. So now today, I think the nationalism, in the sense, just take care your own nation, it's okay. But, you see, extreme view of nationalism, taking care yourself, don't care about others' right, others' feeling. That is wrong. Therefore, now we need a sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings. And actually, today, now we are in 21st century. So whole world, their future, interconnected, interdependent. Not like previous century, say, 19th century, 18th century, and even early part of 20th century. You see, nation, more or less, independent, self-sufficient. Now today's world, not like that. Global economy, Eastern world, their future depends on West. Western world, their future depends on East. Similarly, North and South. That's now today's reality. On top of that, global warming. You see, I say no differences about different continent or different nationality. So entire 7 billion human beings now facing a common problem. So according to that now new reality, now 21st century, we need a sense of global responsibility on the basis of sense of oneness of entire 7 billion human beings. So national interest, since each nation, including America, very powerful nation, part of the world, their future depends on the world. So this sort of nationalism, narrow-minded, some extreme way, only think America is wrong. America is part of the world. So therefore, now we have to think according to today's reality. Today's reality much different than early part of 20th century. So some of our brothers, sisters, still carrying the old thinking, just we, our nation, my nation, my nation. That's old thinking. So through that way, the reality must change. Every nation, every continent interconnected. So therefore, thinking just oneself is unrealistic thinking. And with that view and approach to their own interest become unrealistic because, you see, lack of knowing the reality. Now today's reality is something different, like that.
Your Holiness,
Yes?
how do we remind or convince our politicians, our leaders, of this message of compassion that transcends national borders? How do we convince them of that need? Because that does not seem to be their feeling at the moment.
We can't blame these individual leaders. They come from a society where just thinking about material value, not talking about our inner value. So these individual leaders come from that kind of society. A society, as I already mentioned, education, very materialistic sort of oriented education. Their whole life materialistic. So now the leaders who come from that kind of education, that kind of society, live that kind of cultural heritage, very difficult to change. So now only our hope is pay more attention in education field. So the future generation, through more wider sort of, or say the perspective, education with more wider perspective, that kind of education these days I call education should include hygiene of emotion, hygiene of physical already there. Now in education, as a sort of matter of our health, you should include hygiene of emotion. So the generation now who go through such more complete education system, then I think later part, after I think 20, 30 years, or maybe different sort of, different leader who have these sort of thinking. At the moment, you see, we can't blame these people. I think anyway, I think we choose, or democratic country, we choose, I think, best sort of individual who can lead their nation. But actually, because of lack of education, these leaders are, inner world is considered ignorant. We can't blame them. Their whole life, you see, come that way, and without any sort of knowledge about the inner world. So now, only hope is we pay more attention about our education. Education should be more complete, not only just external material value, but internal value.
So
not necessarily be religious person, remain non-believer. But you see, these are very relevant day-to-day life in order to become happy individual, happy days and nights, and people who have family. I think your family becoming more happier. Otherwise, soon after marriage, happy marriage, then quarrels start. If you see too much self-centered attitude, don't care about others' view, like that. So we need the sort of, or say the more compassionate sort of individual. That individual become much more happier, and then the whole family becoming much more happier. And one family, 10 family, 100 family, 1,000 family, that is community. The community then become more compassionate community, result more happier community, more peaceful community. That's my view. So education is the key factor, I feel.
I'd agree with you. We have
Okay.
some wonderful questions coming in from our audience here in Sydney. Thank you, everyone. They are really terrific. And I'm going to cut to Bex, if I can. Beck Melville, here in the audience in Sydney, is asking,
Yes.
His Holiness, or Your Holiness, what is the kindest thing, the most compassionate thing that someone has either done for you or said to you?
I consider my mother is the first teacher about compassion. Not only through word, but through action. My mother, very, very compassionate as a mother or female. We almost, you see, all her children, I think we never saw our mother's angry face. Always smile, very compassionate. And not only sort of taking care about her own children, but neighboring sort of children, the family children. The one occasion in my area, that area, some kind of, also the famine, starvation, or some famine. So many poor people come in our small village seeking some food. So my mother, tear, crying, and our family itself, not rich, poor, but whatever she had, some bread, like that, all she give them. So very, very kind, compassionate mother. So I consider my mother is the first teacher to introduce me the value of compassion. So the compassion cannot teach by word, but through action, but through real attitude. You should make compassion is something alive in the atmosphere, in the family, in the community. One Lama, one Guru on high throne teaching compassion. But Lama himself sometimes, unfortunately, thinking money or manipulate. So then, how can we believe they are teaching of compassion without implementation is just a selfish way. So mother, really, I think, without word compassion, but through action, you see, teach us the real value of compassion. So I think, suppose one of the highest Lama. So sometimes I feel, and also my duty to make critical view about sort of my own sort of, what's the style, or what to say, the category, Lama category.
I always I love hearing you talk about your mother. It gives me a lot of joy. Now here is a question, and I wonder if you want to answer it. It's from Peter, and it says, Your Holiness, what would you say to Donald Trump?
Firstly, I always consider America as a leading nation of free world. Then, of course, Donald Trump is elected by American people. I must respect. But his sort of, also the expression, the America first, that I little bit sort of, also the wondering what that meaning. Then he withdraw from Paris, also the ecological,
Paris Climate Accord.
Paris Climate Accord. He withdraw. I think that is wrong. And then recent American relation with European countries. These are, you see, through several decades, some unique relations. Now, due to some small economic sort of problems, you see, psychologically remain something distant. That I don't like. And then the refugee. His idea to build a wall between Mexico and America And eventually, I think then between Canada and America, another, I think, war. And then eventually, within American states, different states, you see, may create war. Thinking this small way, narrow-minded, I don't think any sort of help. America, leading nation of free world, as a result, according to that reality, America should speak free world, should act according to that way. Then the refugee, or I mean the asylum seeker, through their difficulties, they with great respect come to America. I think America should feel proud like that. That's my view. Of course, difficult to criticize the great nation's president. And when I saw his special hairstyle, sometimes I feel a little strange.
Very diplomatic. A question from one of our audience members. They haven't given their name, but the question is this, Your Holiness. How do you learn to forgive, but also let go of painful memories that you cannot forget?
That's, you utilize human intelligence maximum way. All our emotion, such as anger, jealousy, these emotions, no proper sort of basis, no sound basis, just emotion come without much thinking. They counterforce these destructive emotions, such as compassion. These based on reason. So utilize our intelligence, some emotion, what really value for long term, short term, such as anger, short term, destroy our peace of mind. Long term, create more enemy. We are social animal. We need friendship. Friendship actually based on trust. Trust based on taking care about their well-being. Then trust comes. So anger is destroyer of these things. So analyze what is the value of anger? No value. There are other emotions such as compassion. If you think, compassion bring us immediately more peaceful mind, then compassion create genuine good smile. That's I call genuine human smile. Out of compassion, then genuine human smile come. Not diplomatic smile, not sarcastic smile. So therefore, you see, the compassionate mind, firstly, create your own inner peace. Then secondly, create more friendly attitude. That creates friendship. So we need friendship. So therefore, the compassion is really, I feel, very useful. And as I mentioned already, for health viewpoint also, compassionate mind, very good for our health. So therefore, in long run, all your profession carried with such compassionate motivation, and your works, your profession can be more constructive and brings more sort of compassionate atmosphere. Therefore, I feel, you see, now we should not thinking about next life, not thinking about God. Oh, I'm Buddhist, not thinking about Buddha. Mainly, day by day-to-day life. some emotion is very harmful, some emotion very helpful. So analyze that, use our human intelligence objectively, not biasly. Then we can develop certain sort of what's the understanding. So that's, I think, other animals also have some limited emotional love there, but without sort of intelligence, their compassion is very limited. We are human beings. This marvelous human brain have the ability to develop reasoning, investigation. So by nature, compassionate mind there since childhood. Now we should utilize human intelligence, then helping, increasing, strengthening the positive emotion.
But our reasoning mind,
I think,
I wonder
yes.
Sorry.
I think, you see, that's, I think, a wise selfish, taking care of yourself with reason. Emotional sort of selfish is foolish selfish. Okay?
Oh, so many questions.
Okay.
Sometimes I'm a wise selfish, sometimes I'm foolish selfish. A question from our audience, Your Holiness, is what has been your most valuable mistake? What was the lesson it created for you? What has been your most valuable mistake?
Oh, I think one my mistake is I feel when I have sort of prime time for study, that's, I think, early 40s, the prime time. I not yet to take the political responsibility. I think I lost a lot of time. I just, you see, sort of whenever I have sort of opportunity, including a little bit sort of, what's the cheating my teacher, I always play outside. I never pay much attention about study. So that, now later I feel that's real my mistake. But now, past is past, cannot change.
No regrets.
So now, 82-year-old, now nearly 83-year-old person, whenever I have time, I still study. So like that. Otherwise, in the political matter and these things, I feel not, I think, a major mistake, I feel. I think at age 16, I took the responsibility. I think people asked me, the then Tibet situation become very delicate, difficult. So regent, so they asked me, now time come, I should take responsibility. The previous Dalai Lama, I think when his age 18, he took the responsibility. In my case, 16. Then I told them, now, previous Dalai Lama, my age reached 18. Then I according our past sort of past example or tradition, then I take. So 16 too early, but the circumstances forced on me, I should take. So in a way, I lost my own freedom. Then 24-year-old, I lost my own country. There are a lot of problems, but I think during those difficult periods, now I look back, no major mistake. I think all my sort of, also the major decision, you see, eventually, it just seems to become very correct, like that. One my old sort of official, till Cultural Revolution happened, he told me, after Cultural Revolution, he told me, now he believed my decision, 59, escape from Lhasa, become correct. Before that, he little bit sort of dilemma. If Dalai Lama still remain in Lhasa, maybe better. After Cultural Revolution, then he full conviction. Now our decision left Lhasa is very correct, like that. So long run, all my major decision become very correct. Nowadays, since 2001, I already achieved elected political leadership. Then next 10 years, I remain like semi-retired position. Then 2011, I totally sort of retired. So anyway, I'm quite free. In the political field, as usual, you see some sort of different views, critical view, or criticize each other. If I still remain in political field, I think I will get more criticism.
Yeah.
Now I'm free from
You're
criticism.
free. Yes, you've let go of politics. You've let go of that leadership position, official leadership position. But I wonder how, Your Holiness, how do you manage the grief that you feel about Tibet and your birthplace? How do you manage that grief?
Now, firstly, we believe law of causality. Any work, good tea or good lunch, everything, you see, related with its own causes. Well prepare your lunch, and then lunch will be tasteful. Without proper preparation, then difficult. So, I think whole our sort of life, happiness, sadness, all, you see, due to its own causes, like that. So then, I feel Tibetan problem. I think the 7th century, 8th century, 9th century, according Chinese history book, then 3 empires, Chinese Empire, Mongol Empire, Tibetan Empire. Then the 9th century, then Tibet, due to some quarrel among the Tibetan emperor family, then Tibet disintegrated. So problems start from 9th century. Then recent, after that, I think Tibetan sometimes, you see, pay more attention about their own small circle. You see, including lamas. You see, they only concern about their own small circle. You see, different part of Tibet, you see, some lamas, some local, or say the landlord, very narrow-minded. I think Tibet remains as a one as an entity because of Tibetan Buddhist tradition. And 300 volumes, books which translated from India. That language cover whole Tibetan area. So that, I think, keep Tibetan
alive
as a one entity. Otherwise, political matter, I think several centuries, I think we really neglected. So sometimes I publicly mentioning, now Tibet, whole Tibetan becomes something very united, or Very united because of Chinese invasion. So Chinese invasion, very grateful. If that not take place, I think Tibetan selfish way thinking, my area, your area, go like that. Now this problem really bring together entire 6 million Tibetan people as one entity, and because they all share same Tibetan Buddhist tradition, including including Tibetan language. So therefore, everybody now paying more attention, like that. But this was beyond my control. So history eventually, produced that way. So okay.
Yeah, lots
so
of
I have sort of
lots of lessons in
no sort of regret. This is something. All the causes already there. Then result come. Nobody can sort of change that. According to the theory of because of law of causality, cause, effect, like that.
So we have a question from
Yes?
Krista, Your Holiness, and it's relevant to what we have been talking about. Krista says, today the world seems very divided between extreme points of view, and she asks, how do we relate to those whose beliefs are opposed to ours?
Because I believe. I think I should always now my number one commitment is promotion of the sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings. Because a lot of problem, of course, nature disaster, that's beyond our control due to global warming. That's beyond our control. Then many problems which we are facing is ultimately our own creation. Therefore, ultimately, I think emotionally, the real sort of source of the problem is self-centered. And you see, the different nation, different religion, or different sort of a community like that. So now all problems which we human beings created, these are mainly based on sort of secondary level of differences. So therefore, logically, now the remedy of those problems which basically created on sort of secondary level of differences, then we must go deeper level. We are all same human being. We all share this small planet all together. So therefore, sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings is, I feel, key factor. And all religion, like Christianity, believe, Judeo-Christian tradition, believe Creator. So we 7 billion human beings are all are children of one Father, that's God. Very powerful thinking. So, if you truly believe that, then it is very, very sinful to kill each other. We must work together, share each other's problem, share each other's sort of also value. As one family member, children of one Father, that's God. Then, a non-theistic religion, you see, we all have a right to be happy. Basic human nature is more compassionate. Therefore, on that level, we can develop sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings. So that's the key factor for peaceful world. So I always telling people, this century should be peaceful century. In order to develop peaceful world does not mean no differences, no different views or contradictory views. But these different views, different interests always remain there. So now we need the sense of dialogue. Whenever you see problem among different people, or we should think they also is a part of our community. So with that, not using force, but through talk, dialogue. So therefore, I usually say telling, in order to create this 21st century to peaceful century, we should create this century of dialogue. So therefore, these things are my number one commitment. Number two commitment as a Buddhist. All major religious traditions, different philosophical views. Some say there's God, creator. Some say no God. Some say no future life, future only heaven and hell. Some say, oh, limitless future life. So there are differences. But all, they carry one message of love. So all major world religious traditions carry one message, that is love, forgiveness, tolerance, and self-discipline. So on that basis, we can develop genuine harmony among the different religious traditions. Different philosophy there, it is understandable. I never say Buddhism is best. Why? We cannot say, pick up one medicine, you can, and then say, this medicine is best. How can? Each individual patients, according to their physical condition, including their age, including their the basic physical condition, then we can say, oh, for your case, this medicine is best. So similarly, there are thousands of different mental dispositions. So for some people, certain religious philosophy more suitable. For some people, another philosophy is more suitable. So therefore, philosophical viewpoint, there are differences, but all meant for promotion of love, forgiveness, tolerance. Therefore, on this basis, we can develop genuine harmony among the different religious traditions. And then India is a living example. Now over nearly 60 years I spent in this country. So I noticed that all major world religious traditions live together here. Occasionally some problem here and there, but basically I think religious harmony over 1 billion populated nation is a quite complicated nation. But as far as religious harmony is still very much there. So therefore, I feel a full conviction religious harmony is possible. That's my number 2 commitment. Number 3 commitment is I'm Tibetan. You see, Tibetan people trust me. So therefore, the political matter, as I mentioned earlier, I totally retired. Now my commitment is preservation or special taking care about Tibetan environment, Tibetan ecology. One Chinese ecologist, you see, told me, you see, many years his observation, he noticed Tibetan plateau, you see, the effect to global warming.
The Tibetan plateau.
From Tibetan plateau, from Tibetan plateau, the effect for global warming as much as South Pole and North Pole. Therefore, he described Tibetan plateau as third pole. So I fully committed about ecology, number 1. Then another one, preservation of Tibetan culture, Buddhist knowledge. If I'm Buddhist, so maybe a little bit biased view. But I feel, you see, we spent 20, 30 years study and practice. So therefore, I think as far as Buddhist tradition is concerned, living tradition of Nalanda tradition available only among Tibetan Buddhist tradition. So I feel really it is important to preserve these traditions. And with that, Tibetan language is now, I realize, best language to explain about 1,000-year-old India's philosophy, India's logic. Tibetan language is the best language, I noticed. Now, modern Hindi language, no hope. The English, of course, particularly Australian, Australian or something, you heard of English, no hope. So only Tibetan language.
What do we all think of the 21st century being the century for dialogue? We have an audience here, and our final question for you as we need to say goodbye now. We are so honoured to have you, but our audience is full of compassion for you. And one question that we had is, how is your health?
Health?
Your health.
Just my voice. Quite good. And then my face. I often, you see, ask some, you see, people, including Indian police. Morning when I met them, I asked, what they think my age. Then often they say, oh, about 70, like that. So then when I mentioned to them, I'm now in 80s, 82, 83, like that, the last few years. So then I asked them, look my face. They say, oh, looks very young. And then I asked them, look my teeth. Very good teeth. And then you see, sometimes looks quite dirty. You see, you know, I told them, look, my lips very red, almost like use lipstick. So then I think some cases, of course, when I sort of teasing or joking, then I asked them, look, my mouth very beautiful, very red. So then I do that. Then everybody is enjoying like that. It's my physical, now 83 years old. Now seems okay. So I'm looking forward another, I think, 10, 15, 20 years. So I'm looking forward. Thank you.
How wonderful. Well, on behalf of the Happiness and Its Causes conference here in Sydney, we'd like to wish you a happy 83rd birthday on the 6th of July.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.